Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. Rain drummed against the wide glass windows of Café Meridian, each drop shimmering against the dim streetlights of Lagos Island. The night shift had dragged longer than usual, the smell of espresso, wet pavement, and exhaustion thick in the air. Behind the counter, Lina Okafor wiped her hands nervously on her apron. Her body ached from 10 hours of standing, but quitting wasn't an option. She needed the money, every last naira of it. The bank didn't care that her father was gone, that she was paying off debts left behind by a man who'd once worn the army uniform with pride. Table 3 needs refills, barked Mr. Collins, the manager, from across the floor. He was leaning on the bar counter like he owned the place. A cheap wristwatch pretending to be gold, and arrogance that filled every corner of the cafe. Yes, sir, Lina replied softly, her voice barely cutting through the low jazz music playing from the ceiling speakers. She reached for the tray, hands steady but tired. 3 cups of steaming cappuccino, 1 for a woman glued to her phone, 2 for businessmen whispering about contracts and politics. The rain outside thudded harder, a warning she didn't hear. As she approached the table, one of the men snapped his fingers. "You're late," he said sharply, without looking up. He wore an Italian suit that probably cost more than her yearly salary. Lina bowed her head slightly. "I'm so sorry, sir. The machine." "Just put it down," he interrupted. She obeyed. But as she set the final cup on the table, the man's hand jerked suddenly, colliding with hers. The coffee splashed. A dark stain spread across his white shirt like spilled secrets. For a split second, silence. Then the explosion. "You clumsy girl!" he barked, shooting to his feet. Chairs scraped, eyes turned, whispers rippled across the cafe. I'm so sorry, sir," Lina stammered, grabbing a napkin. "It was an accident." "Do you know who I am?" he shouted. "I should have you fired this instant." Her lips parted to explain, but before she could, the familiar scent of cheap cologne and ego swept in. Mr. Collins. He crossed the room with a predator's calm, his smile too smooth to be kind. "What's going on here, sir?" he asked, tone dripping with false charm. "This incompetent waitress just ruined my shirt," the man snapped. "I expect compensation, or I'll call your owner myself." Colin's expression hardened. He turned on Lina like a wolf scenting weakness. "Outside, now." The word struck harder than a slap. The cafe staff exchanged nervous glances. No one dared speak, not even the cashier who saw everything. Lina hesitated. "Sir, I'll clean up now," he barked again, grabbing her arm so hard she winced. The cafe fell silent except for the rain and the distant hiss of the coffee machine. Collins dragged her toward the back hallway, the one the staff whispered about, the one where the cameras never worked. The fluorescent lights flickered as they passed. The smell of damp concrete filled the narrow corridor. Lina's pulse raced. "Please, Mr. Collins, I didn't mean to—" "Quiet," he snapped, glancing behind him to make sure no one followed. His grip tightened. "You've embarrassed me in front of a customer. Again. I swear I didn't—" He stopped abruptly, turning on her with a sneer. "Do you think I care? You're lucky I even keep you here. I can replace you by tomorrow morning." Tears pricked her eyes, but she stood still, clutching her apron. "I just want to do my job, sir." He leaned closer. "Then do what I tell you. When I say jump, you jump. When I say smile, you smile. Understand?" Lina nodded weakly. Satisfied, Collins smirked and reached for the wall switch, killing half the lights in the hallway. Only a faint glow from the exit sign painted their faces red. "You're going to fix this, Lina," he murmured, voice low, heavy with something unspoken. "You'll apologize to the man and—" But before he could finish, a soft click echoed above them. The old intercom, dead for months, flickered to life. Collins froze, and then came the voice. "Step away from her." Deep, controlled. Authority wrapped in calm. The kind of voice that didn't need to shout to be obeyed. Lina blinked, scanning the empty hallway. Who's there?" she whispered. Collins looked up at the speaker, face draining of color. "Who the hell—" "I said step away." The lights flickered again, once, twice, before humming back to full brightness. For the first time, Lina saw fear in her manager's eyes. He released her wrist slowly, his arrogance faltering. What is this?" he muttered, backing toward the wall. "Who's playing games?" From somewhere unseen, perhaps the control room upstairs, perhaps far beyond the cafe, someone was watching. Lina's heart pounded as she stared at the blinking red light on the corner security camera. It was supposed to be broken, but it wasn't. The intercom crackled again, softer this time. "Go back to the counter, Miss Okafor. You're safe now." Her breath caught. No one had called her Miss Okafor in years. Only her father had spoken her name with that kind of respect. Collins swallowed hard, his voice trembling. This is some kind of prank." The voice didn't answer. Only silence, and the faint hum of rain filled the corridor. Lina stepped back, confusion etched across her face. Somewhere between fear and relief, she whispered, "Who are you?" But whoever was on the other end didn't respond. The intercom light dimmed. The hallway returned to its lonely hum. Only Collins's shallow breathing broke the silence. He straightened his tie and snapped, "Not a word of this to anyone. You understand?" Lina didn't reply. She simply turned and walked out, her reflection flashing briefly across the rain-slick floor, small, fragile, yet unbroken. Outside, lightning flared across the Lagos skyline. From a tinted black SUV parked across the street, a pair of eyes watched her through a glowing screen. The man leaned forward, studying her face as she stepped behind the counter again, unaware she'd just stepped into a war she didn't even know existed. "You really are your father's daughter," he murmured, his tone almost reverent. Then he switched off the monitor. And just like that, the rain swallowed the night again. She thought she was alone. But someone had been watching her all along. The shadows. The corridor camera blinked twice, then went dark. Roman Darius leaned forward, his eyes narrowing at the monitor. On the screen below, Manager Collins was dragging Lina Okafor toward the cafe's rear hallway, the only stretch of Cafe Meridian without visual coverage. Roman had designed it that way years ago, before he ever thought she'd work here. It wasn't supposed to be a trap, just a quiet passage meant for staff breaks and supply storage. But now, watching Collins' hand close around her wrist, Roman felt the old instinct rising again, the one that had kept him alive when the world wanted him dead. He pressed his palm flat against the cold desk, breathing slow. "Not again," he muttered. A storm rumbled outside the cafe's windows, thunder rolling through the narrow Lagos streets. Neon lights flickered against the rain-streaked glass of Roman's office. A private floor above the main cafe, sealed off to everyone except him. To the world, this floor didn't exist. Neither did Roman Darius. He leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking under his weight. On his monitors, 9 live camera feeds displayed every angle of the cafe below. The register, the dining area, the storage hall, even the parking lot. Only one screen had gone black. That black screen and the trembling
You think you can
waitress
steal from me and get away
him
with it?
were enough to tear open a wound he buried years ago. Flashback. Northern border, 6 years ago. The world had been fire. Gunfire tore through the air as the convoy burned. Roman, then Captain Roman Darius of the International Security Corps, crawled through smoke and dust, one arm bleeding, the other clutching a half-broken radio. He could hear the enemy shouting in Hausa from the ridge. They had seconds before they'd be overrun. Then came the voice that would change everything. "Sir, down!" A young Nigerian soldier dove over him, pushing him out of the path of a grenade blast. The explosion swallowed the sand, the jeep, and half the radio. When Chifuis, the dust cleared, the soldier was bleeding but smiling faintly. "Name's Sergeant Levi Okafor," he'd said through clenched teeth. "Don't die on me, sir. My daughter's waiting for me back home." They'd made it out together that night, barely. Roman never forgot the sound of Levi's laughter as they limped away from the wreckage, or the way he'd shared his last bottle of water without hesitation. 2 years later, Levi was gone. Ambushed during a mission Roman had warned command not to greenlight. The news came like a gut punch. Roman had buried his friend's dog tags himself. That was the day he'd disappeared too. Faked his death, burned his records, vanished into the shadows. And quietly, he found Levi's daughter, Lina. He'd watched her grow from afar through hacked school records, cafe job applications, and old CCTV networks. Protecting her became his only mission left. Back in the present, Roman exhaled sharply. Colin's voice echoed faintly through the hallway mic, slurred with arrogance and threat. "You embarrassed me in front of a customer, Lina. You think your pretty face keeps you safe? You think I don't know you've been talking to the accountant about my tips?" Roman's jaw tightened. He'd seen this type of man too many times, small tyrants pretending to be kings. He flipped a switch beneath his desk. The backup feed flickered alive, revealing grainy infrared footage from the corridor. Colin stood inches from Lina, his hand gripping her arm too tightly. Roman didn't hesitate. He reached to the console and pressed the red intercom button. A system wired through the cafe's old maintenance network, one no one knew existed anymore. His voice dropped to a growl. "Step away from her!" The sound echoed through the corridor speakers, low and cold. Collins froze. His eyes darted around the ceiling, confusion bleeding into fear. "Who said that?" Lina gasped softly, her pulse quickening. "Step away," the voice repeated. "Now!" Roman watched as Collins stumbled back, muttering to himself. The man's ego fought with his fear, but fear won. He bolted down the hallway and out the rear door into the rain. Roman exhaled, finally releasing the button. The storm outside swallowed the sound of his sigh. Lina stood there for a long moment, clutching her arm, staring up at the ceiling like she was trying to find the voice that had saved her. Then she slowly walked back toward the cafe floor, unaware that a pair of hidden eyes still followed her every move. Roman sat back, rubbing a scar that ran across his forearm, a relic from that same mission 6 years ago. "You really did raise her right, Levi," he whispered. "Still brave. Still too honest for her own good." He reached over to his desk drawer, unlocking it with a biometric pad. Inside lay a rusted dog tag, the one he'd kept since the desert. Sergeant Levi Okafor, 213879. He closed his eyes. Promise kept, old friend, or so he thought. Because as he glanced back to the monitors, a movement outside the cafe caught his eye. A figure stood across the rain-soaked street, unmoving, long trench coat, hat pulled low. At first, Roman assumed it was a random passerby, but the figure didn't move for minutes. It was as though he were studying the cafe, or the girl inside it. Roman zoomed in through an external camera feed. The man's face was obscured by rain, but something glinted at his wrist, a metal band, military issue, One Roman hadn't seen since the old days. Impossible, he muttered. He switched to thermal, but before the system could focus, the feed crackled and went static. A signal jam. Someone had just interfered with his network. Roman's heart sank. Whoever that man was, he wasn't there by accident. He stood slowly, eyes locked on the blacked-out screen. So, he murmured, reaching for his gun from the cabinet, it begins again. Outside, lightning flashed across the flooded street. The mysterious figure tilted his head towards the cafe door, a faint smile ghosting across his lips. Then he turned and vanished into the storm. Upstairs, Roman reactivated his system, muttering under his breath. She thought she was alone, but someone else has been watching her too. The storm had passed by dawn, but Cafe Meridian still felt heavy, like the rain had seeped into the walls and refused to leave. Lina Okafor walked in just before opening, her uniform slightly damp, her thoughts even heavier. The cafe lights buzzed faintly as she stepped inside. Usually, the smell of roasted beans comforted her. Today, it felt like a lie. Something had changed. The staff were whispering in small circles, their voices low, urgent. Eyes darted toward the hallway like it was cursed. He ran out screaming like he saw a ghost. I heard the intercom spoke to him, but the system's been dead for years. Maybe it was God, maybe karma. Lina pretended not to listen as she tied her apron. Her hands still shook from last night. She could almost hear the voice again, deep, calm, commanding. Step away from her. She didn't know if it was real, but she knew one thing for certain. It had saved her. She walked to the entrance to check the umbrella stand, and that's when she saw it. A black umbrella leaned against the glass door, clean, dry, untouched by rain. Tied to its handle was a folded piece of paper. She frowned, glanced around to make sure no one was watching, then carefully untied it. The note was handwritten in neat block letters. Keep walking with your head high. Her breath caught. No name, no signature. But whoever wrote it knew exactly how she felt. Upstairs, in a room the staff didn't even know existed, Roman Darius watched her unfold the note through his monitors. He said nothing, just watched. Amira stepped into the room. Behind him, dark-skinned, sharp-eyed, and silent as a shadow. She carried a tablet under one arm and a steaming cup of coffee in the other. She's tougher than you think, Amira said quietly, setting the mug down beside him. Most people wouldn't come back after a night like that. Roman didn't look up. She's her father's daughter. Amira smiled faintly. And Collins? Gone. Roman's voice was clipped, cold. Quit over the phone at dawn, packed his things before sunrise. Should I find him? Roman shook his head. No, not yet. First, erase last night, all of it. Amira nodded, unlocking her tablet. Already on it. The ghost doesn't like to be seen. Roman's lips twitched into the faintest hint of a smile. That's why you're still here, Amira. Within minutes, the footage of the hallway incident vanished, overwritten by hours of harmless cafe recordings. To the world, last night never happened, but Roman knew better. He turned to another monitor, this one displaying Collins' employee records and payment logs. They looked clean. Too clean. Roman had built empires on spotting lies in data. He opened a secondary file he'd cloned from the cafe's accounting system months ago, cross-referencing timestamps. Within seconds, the discrepancies glowed like bruises on the screen. Unrecorded transactions, fake supplier invoices, quiet siphons into offshore accounts. Roman's brows furrowed. He wasn't just stealing tips. Amira leaned closer, scrolling through the logs. These numbers trace back to Halvard Global. Roman's eyes sharpened at the name. Halvard, the rival conglomerate that had been sniffing around his businesses for years. Legitimate on paper, but in reality, a front for covert operations and hostile acquisitions. Collins was feeding them information, Amira said, confirming his thoughts. Inventory records, supplier lists, staff data, and encrypted shipping manifests. Someone paid him to compromise your network from inside. Roman leaned back, the storm in his chest rising again. That explains the jamming signal last night. Amira hesitated. You think the man outside the cafe? Roman's gaze hardened. Wasn't random, no. The memory of that trench-coated figure standing in the rain replayed in his mind. The posture, the glint on the wrist, it all screamed training, not corporate, military. He rubbed his jaw slowly. Halvard's reaching deeper than I thought. Amira frowned. Should I alert our contacts? Not yet, he said. We stay quiet. If they think I'm still dead, that's our only advantage. Amira nodded, but her eyes betrayed concern. Sir, how long can a dead man keep protecting the living? Roman didn't answer. Instead, he turned back to the screen where Lina was serving customers again, smiling softly, pretending everything was normal. She didn't know the storm that had just brushed past her life. Long enough, he finally said, until she's safe. Downstairs, Lina was wiping tables when she caught a reflection in the window, her own, pale and thoughtful. The umbrella leaned near the door beside her. She wondered who could have left it. Her instincts told her it wasn't a prank. There was something deliberate about it, something protective. Keep walking with your head high. She smiled faintly to herself. For the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. Later that afternoon, Amira's secure line pinged with a code alert, a breach attempt on Roman's private network. She froze, her fingers hovering over the tablet. Someone's trying to access the cafe's surveillance backups, she said. They're good, fast, military-grade encryption. Roman was beside her in seconds. Trace it. Amira's fingers flew across the screen, decrypting one firewall after another. Lines of code scrolled faster than most eyes could follow. Then the signal stabilized. An anonymous message flashed across the interface, typed in simple white text. You shouldn't have interfered, Darius. Collins wasn't working alone. And they know you're still alive. The cursor blinked once, twice. Then the screen went black. Amira's face drained of color. They know? Roman's expression didn't change, but his pulse did. Lock it down, he ordered. She secured the system instantly, isolating the breach. Roman stared at the dead monitors for a long moment. His reflection stared back, older, harder, a ghost of a man who'd walked out of his own grave. So, the past had found him. He reached for Levi Okafor's dog tag from his desk and clenched it in his fist. Then it's time I stopped hiding, he murmured. If they're coming for her, they'll have to come through me first. Lightning flashed outside again, though the sky was clear. And somewhere across the city, in a high-rise office belonging to Halvard Global, another man watched the same cafe feed, smiling as he whispered, "Welcome back, Captain Darius." Morning sunlight spilled through Cafe Meridian's tall windows, but the light couldn't quite reach the corners. The cafe had always been a place where shadows gathered quietly, behind the smiles, the laughter, and the clinking of coffee cups. To most people, it was just another upscale cafe nestled on the edge of Victoria Island, a spot where politicians came for quick meetings and businessmen sealed deals over espresso. But Roman Darius knew better. The cafe wasn't just a business, it was a listening post. Hidden beneath its floors and behind its walls were encrypted relay nodes, part of a dormant network Roman had built years ago when he still wore the badge of captain. Through it, he'd monitored black market trades, money laundering routes, and silent political payoffs. Cafe Meridian connected worlds that were never meant to touch. Corporate sharks, corrupt ministers, and discreet operatives who traded influence instead of bullets. And Collins, that arrogant petty manager, had been feeding data from that network to outsiders without even realizing the scale of what he'd compromised. Roman's hands tightened around the dog tag hanging from his neck. He thought he was just stealing tips, he muttered. He was selling doorways. Amira glanced up from her screen. The Halvard transmissions match patterns from 6 years ago. They've been tracking your blind spots, sir. Roman leaned closer to the monitor. They know Cafe Meridian isn't what it seems. Amira hesitated. And the girl? He exhaled slowly. She's already standing in the middle of a battlefield she can't see. Downstairs, Lina Okafor stood before the HR office door, her palms slightly sweaty. Colin's voice from that night still echoed in her head, but she was done being afraid. She pushed the door open. The smell of dust and stale paper greeted her. Inside, the filing cabinets stood open, their drawers pulled out and empty. Folders littered the floor like discarded evidence. The computer monitor blinked with an error message. User not found. She frowned, glancing around. Hello? Is anyone here? No answer. Every trace of Collins, his employment records, his salary slips, even his ID logs, had vanished overnight. It was as though he had never existed. A shiver ran through her spine. When she stepped back into the hallway, 2 men in suits brushed past her. They weren't regulars. The way they scanned the walls, the ceiling, the staff, it felt like inspection disguised as curiosity. One of them met her eyes briefly before giving a polite, too-perfect smile. Just investors, he said smoothly. Lina forced a nod and moved aside, her instincts screaming otherwise. Upstairs, Roman watched the same men through his hidden feeds. His jaw tightened. They're Halvard's men. Amira turned in her chair. You sure? Positive. I've seen their faces before. He zoomed in on the taller one, clean-cut, expensive watch, the kind of confidence that came from being untouchable. That's Victor Halvard's security attaché. If he's here, Halvard isn't far behind. Amira frowned. They're moving too soon. They think I'm dead, Roman said flatly. That's what makes them bold. He reached for the small toolkit beside him and began replacing the old camera feeds. The new models looked like ordinary smoke detectors, small enough to blend into the ceiling's design. Every corner, every shadow, he said. No more blind spots. Amira hesitated. You're putting yourself back on the grid. If Halvard's team sniffs that out. Roman's voice softened, almost weary. Then I'll handle it. He looked down at one of the monitors. Lina was kneeling beside a crying coworker, a young hostess who'd been accused of losing an envelope of tips. Lina's hand rested gently on her shoulder. It's okay, she said softly. I know you didn't take it. We'll sort this out together. Roman watched her for a long moment. The way she spoke, calm, firm, kind, reminded him of another voice long gone. Levi Okafor, the man who had once dragged him out of a burning convoy in Borno, shouting through gunfire that no life was worth giving up on. Now, his daughter carried the same fire, hidden under quietness, wrapped in gentleness. Roman felt something he hadn't felt in years. Pride. She's her father's echo, Amira murmured beside him, reading his thoughts. Roman nodded slowly. And his redemption. By noon, Cafe Meridian was busier than usual. The hum of conversation filled the air, but beneath it a different rhythm pulsed, Tension, anticipation, watchfulness. Lina carried a tray of cappuccinos to a corner table, offering her usual shy smile. She didn't notice the tall man in a tailored gray suit entering through the main door. But Roman did. The moment the man's face appeared on the screen, Roman's hand froze above the console. Victor Halvard, the ghost from his past, the man who'd funded the operation that destroyed their unit, the one responsible for Levi Okafor's death. Roman's jaw clenched. He had spent years in hiding, building an invisible life to stay off Halvard's radar. And now the devil was standing inside his own cafe, smiling at his staff. Halvard looked around with practiced charm. "Lovely establishment," he said to the hostess. "I'm here to meet with your manager. I hear there's a vacancy." The hostess, unaware of the storm she was ushering in, nodded politely and led him to a seat by the window. Roman leaned forward, his voice low but lethal. "He's not here to invest. He's here to confirm I'm still breathing." Amira's fingers tightened around her pen. "What do we do?" Roman's eyes narrowed as he zoomed in on Halvard's reflection in the glass, and on Lina approaching his table with her tray. "We watch," he said darkly, "because if he talks to her—" He trailed off, every instinct on alert. Then the war just found her, too. Rain returned that night, slicking the streets with a restless shimmer. Deep beneath the city, in a dimly lit underground car park, the echoes of that storm met the hum of an idling engine. Franklin Collins stood nervously beside a silver sedan, tugging at his damp collar. Every sound, every drop of water, every flicker of light made him flinch. His eyes darted towards the approaching footsteps that broke the silence. A tall man in a gray coat emerged from the shadows, the gleam of his wristwatch catching the fluorescent lights. Victor Halvard. His presence carried the kind of weight that made lesser men swallow their words. "You're late," Halvard said, his voice calm but dangerous. Collins forced a shaky smile. "Sorry, sir. There was, traffic." Halvard's expression didn't change. "In an underground garage?" Collins's throat went dry. He handed over a small drive. "These are the customer logs, just like you asked. The regulars, senators, importers, the ones with offshore transfers, all linked to that cafe you wanted me to monitor." Halvard turned the drive between his fingers. "And the manager's cut?" "I didn't touch a thing. I swear," Collins said quickly. "You said to keep it quiet. I just did what you told me. But lately, the system's been acting strange. The feed's freezing, cameras cutting out. Someone's tampering." Halvard's eyes narrowed. "Someone?" Collins nodded. "It's like a ghost. Sometimes I hear static in the comms, like someone's watching from inside." For the first time, Halvard smiled, a cold, humorless curl of the lips. "A ghost, you say?" He leaned in close, voice dropping to a whisper. "Tell me, Mr. Collins, did you ever serve in the military?" No, sir." "Then you wouldn't recognize the name Captain Roman Darius, would you?" Collins blinked. "No, wait, who's—" Halvard's hand landed on his shoulder, firm and final. "Good, let's keep it that way." That was the last time anyone saw Franklin Collins alive. The next morning, Lina Okafor stood behind the cafe counter, staring at her phone. A new text message glowed on her screen, sent from an unknown number. "He's still watching. Don't trust anyone." Her stomach twisted. She looked around. Customers chatted idly. The hiss of the espresso machine filled the air, and Amira was fixing the front camera wiring near the door. Everything looked normal, ordinary, safe. But the message wouldn't stop burning in her mind. He's still watching. Who? Collins? The mysterious voice that saved her? She quickly deleted the text. Then another one arrived seconds later. They know what your father did. Lina froze. Her fingers trembled so hard she almost dropped the phone. Her father? He'd been gone for years. A soldier who died a hero, everyone said. She felt eyes on her, though no one seemed to be looking. Upstairs, Roman Darius stared at the same message on his mirrored surveillance feed. His security systems had intercepted it the moment it hit Lina's phone. "Trace it," he ordered quietly. Amira's fingers danced across her keyboard. Running it through 3 proxy layers. Hold on, it's coming from a burner device. Lagos Island cell tower. Roman leaned closer. Registered to who? Amira hesitated, then turned the screen toward him. The name glowed in bold letters. Lina Okafor. Roman's jaw tightened. They're using her identity? Amira frowned. It's worse than that. The SIM was activated 2 days ago. Someone forged her ID at a local vendor. Roman straightened, eyes darkening. They're baiting me. He knew this tactic. He'd used it himself once, long ago, when he needed ghosts to crawl out of hiding. You take something, or someone, they care about, then you wait. He looked back at the feed where Lina was nervously wiping tables, her smile brittle. She didn't know it yet, but the same men who killed her father were circling again. That evening, as the cafe emptied out, Lina walked into the locker room to grab her bag. The fluorescent lights flickered. Something felt wrong. Her locker door was slightly ajar. She hadn't left it that way. "Hello?" she called softly, her voice echoing off the tiles. No answer. She took a slow step forward, heart thudding. Inside, her things were disturbed, her apron folded differently, her spare shoes out of place. And then she saw it. A small worn photograph pinned to the inside of her locker door. Her father, in uniform, smiling. But standing beside him was another man, tall, sharp-eyed. The same deep gaze she'd seen in the cafe mirrors. Roman Darius. Her breath caught. She stumbled back, clutching the edge of the locker for balance. Her mind raced. How? Why was he with her father? The resemblance was undeniable. Same scar on the jawline, same eyes that seemed to see through everything. She reached for the photo, her fingers trembling. On the back, written in fading ink, were 4 words. Debt paid. Watch her well. Lina's eyes filled with confusion and fear, because whoever had put this here hadn't just known her father. They had been inside the cafe, inside her space, close enough to touch her life without her noticing. And somewhere above, in a room she didn't know existed, Roman Darius watched her reaction through the camera feed. Silent, torn between revealing the truth and vanishing again. He turned away, his chest heavy. "They've made contact," he said quietly. Amira's face paled. "Sir, what are you going to do?" Roman stared at the rain blurring the city skyline beyond the window. "What I should have done years ago." He looked back at the monitor, at Lina holding the photo, lost between past and present. Protect her, even if it means coming back from the dead. The rain had stopped by morning, but the tension inside Café Méridien hadn't. The air was thick with whispers about Colin's disappearance, about the strange noises from the upper floor, and about the shy waitress who seemed to attract trouble like a magnet. Lina tried to keep her head down, yet every conversation felt like it paused when she entered a room. The locker photo burned in her memory. Her father. That man beside him. The same man she thought she glimpsed reflected in the cafe's dark windows sometimes. Watching. Always watching. She'd had enough of being afraid, so during her lunch break she marched up to the manager's office where 2 executives from the head branch were reviewing documents. "Excuse me." she said softly, standing by the doorway. Both men looked up, startled. Yes? Can we help you? Lina's voice trembled but held firm. I want to know about the surveillance system. Someone's been watching the staff. There are cameras hidden in places we didn't know existed. One of the executives frowned. That's a serious accusation. I'm serious, Lina said, and I think Collins wasn't the only one using them. The older executive sighed, adjusting his tie. Miss Okafor, Cafe Meridian's surveillance is standard. Customer safety, staff protection, nothing else. If you're suggesting otherwise, I'm suggesting, Lina interrupted, her courage rising, that someone's using this place for more than coffee. A silence fell. The younger man leaned forward. You should be careful, Miss Okafor. Sometimes curiosity can be misunderstood. That tone chilled her. She murmured an apology and stepped out, but her heart raced. They were lying. She could feel it. As she passed through the hallway, a cleaning woman brushed past her, slipping a folded envelope into her apron pocket without a word. Lina froze, glancing back. The woman was gone. Her pulse quickened as she opened the note behind the counter. Your father saved me once. Now I'm returning the favor. Her fingers trembled. The handwriting was steady, precise. The kind of script that belonged to someone disciplined, maybe military. She looked up at the ceiling, at the faint hum of the air vents and hidden cameras she could almost feel staring down at her. Who are you? She whispered. Upstairs, Roman Darius watched her reaction through the monitors. The note had reached her. She's scared, Amira said softly behind him, and curious. That's a dangerous mix. Roman didn't answer immediately. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen, on Lina's face, on her father's eyes mirrored in hers. She deserves to know why she's being hunted, he said finally. Amira crossed her arms. And when she does, she'll also know who you really are. The dead captain who isn't so dead. You think that won't destroy her? Roman turned toward her, his voice low. She's already in the line of fire because of me. The least I can do is tell her the truth. Amira's expression hardened. If she finds out, she becomes a target. Halvard's people are sniffing around again. One of the new baristas was asking for the fuse room key this morning. They're looking for your control room. Roman's jaw clenched. Then let them look. But if anyone touches her, I know, Amira said quietly. You'll burn the world again. By afternoon, the cafe was quieter than usual. Rain pattered lightly against the glass, and the city's hum seemed far away. Lina brewed coffee, mechanically, her thoughts spiraling. The note, the erased records, the man in the photograph. She couldn't stop wondering. Who was he? Was he watching her out of guilt, duty, or something else entirely? When her shift ended, she hesitated near the stairs leading to the upper offices. A small sign read, Authorized personnel only. She glanced around. The hallway was empty. Her heartbeat thudded in her ears as she stepped forward, the floorboards creaking beneath her shoes. The air grew cooler as she climbed. She reached the top landing, a narrow corridor lined with closed doors and humming electrical panels. One door, slightly ajar, spilled a faint blue glow into the hall. Her curiosity overpowered her fear. She pushed it open. Inside, the room was dim except for the wall of monitors flickering with live feeds, the cafe floor, kitchen, parking lot, even the break room. And in front of them stood the man from the photograph. Roman Darius turned slowly, caught in the pale light of the screens. For a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. Lina's breath caught. It's you, she whispered. Roman's face was calm, but his eyes were heavy with unspoken history. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "I found a picture," Lina said, her voice trembling. "You were with my father. Why? Who are you?" Roman took a slow breath. Someone who owed him a debt. Lina shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. "You've been spying on me, watching me. Why?" "Because you were in danger," he said firmly. "And your father. He asked me to protect you if anything ever happened to him." Lina stared, searching his face for any sign of deceit. "My father's been dead for years." "I know," Roman said softly, "because I was there when it happened." The silence between them was thick with grief, disbelief, and something else. A faint thread of recognition, like two souls caught between past and present. Before Lina could speak again, the door behind her clicked. A shadow moved in the reflection of the monitors. One of the new baristas, holding a maintenance badge, slipping quietly into the hallway with a small transmitter in hand. Roman's eyes snapped to the screen. "We're not alone," he whispered. Lina turned in confusion. "What?" He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the back exit, just as the hallway lights flickered and the sound of static filled the room. Below, Amira's voice came through Roman's earpiece. "They found you, sir. It's Halvard's man. He just sent a signal." Roman looked down the stairs, then back at Lina. Fear and determination colliding in his gaze. "It's time you knew the truth," he said, "but not here." And before Lina could ask what truth he meant, the control room behind them burst into sparks as the transmitter overloaded the security feed, wiping everything clean. The city's rain had eased into a drizzle by the time Roman led Lina through the dim stairwell and into an old service room at the back of Café Meridian. The scent of dust and oil filled the air, a forgotten place meant for deliveries long past. Lina's heart pounded. Her shoes slipped slightly on the damp floor as she followed him in. The door shut behind them with a heavy click. Roman turned toward her, his face half lit by the flicker of a lone bulb. "You deserve the truth," he said. She crossed her arms, trying to hide the tremor in her voice. "Start talking, because right now, I don't know if you're protecting me or playing me." Roman's expression didn't change. "Your father, Sergeant Levi Okafor, was the bravest man I ever knew. He was part of a covert task force assigned to a diplomatic escort in Northern Europe. I was the intelligence liaison on that mission." Lina's breath caught. "You knew him?" "I owed him my life," Roman said quietly. "During an ambush, there was an explosive planted in our convoy. He saw it before I did. He shoved me out of the way and took the blast himself." His eyes flickered with a pain that time hadn't erased. "I woke up in a military hospital. He never made it out." Lina's throat tightened. The room felt smaller. "My mother told me it was an accident," she whispered. "They called it that to keep you safe," Roman said. "Your father was tangled in something much bigger. A black operation that certain powerful men wanted buried. One of them was Victor Halvard." The name made her shiver. She'd heard it whispered in the cafe just days ago. Roman reached into a metal briefcase beside the wall and pulled out a thin folder. "After your father's death, I faked mine, changed my identity. I came to Lagos to hide in plain sight and to watch over you." He opened the folder. Inside were surveillance stills, transaction records, and photographs of men she recognized: Collins, Halvard, and several unfamiliar faces. Collins was feeding information to Halvard's network, Roman explained. Client data, bank transfers, coded shipments. Your cafe wasn't just a restaurant, it was a front for laundering money tied to Halvard's global operations. Lena's eyes widened. So when I spilled coffee on that customer, it exposed a courier, Roman finished. Your mistake forced Collins to act recklessly. That night, when he dragged you into the hallway, Halvard was already losing patience with him. Your defiance and my interference disrupted a system they'd been running for years. Lena's knees weakened. She sat on a crate, staring down at her trembling hands. You've been controlling everything, she said. My job, my safety, even my fear. All this time, I thought I was surviving on my own. Roman's gaze softened. No, Lina. You were surviving. I just made sure the wolves didn't get too close. Her anger cracked through the sorrow. And you think that makes it right? Watching me like I'm some mission? He didn't flinch. It wasn't about duty anymore. It was about keeping a promise. Your father's last words were, "Take care of her, Roman. She doesn't know the world she's walking into." I failed him once. I won't fail him again. Silence stretched between them. The sound of rain dripping through the ceiling, the hum of distant traffic. The faint echo of truth settling between two lives that had been bound long before this night. Finally, Lina looked up. So what now? You hide me again? Pretend this never happened? Roman stepped closer, his voice steady but laced with fatigue. No. You have a choice now. He placed the folder beside her, spreading its pages like a map of betrayal. You can walk away, Lina. Start over somewhere far from this chaos. Forget me. Forget your father's past. Or, help me finish what he started, he said. Bring down Halvard and everyone who profited from your father's death. Lina stared at the faces in the file. Collins, Halvard, the unknown executives. Her father's memory pulsed like a heartbeat behind every photo. She thought of all the years she'd spent working quietly, apologizing for things that weren't her fault, always shrinking to fit into someone else's shadow. But now she could feel something different. A pulse of her father's courage, reborn in her chest. Lina lifted her chin. I'm done hiding. Roman searched her eyes, almost disbelieving. You understand what that means? She nodded. If these people killed my father, then I want to be the one who helps end it. For the first time in years, Roman almost smiled. Then you're your father's daughter after all. They stood in silence for a moment, the air thick with unspoken alliance. One forged not by circumstance, but by choice. Then the quiet was shattered. The faint hum of Roman's tablet turned red, and the screens on the wall flickered to life. Static, then a live feed from the cafe's rear entrance. Figures in dark coats were slipping through the back door. Roman's jaw tightened. Halvard's men, he muttered. Lina's eyes widened. How did they find us? Roman grabbed the briefcase and his sidearm, the soldier in him reawakening. They've been tracking the control room since the blackout. I should have known they wouldn't stop at Collins. He turned to her. Stay behind me. Whatever happens, don't make a sound. But Lina, standing in that dusty corner with fear clawing at her ribs, realized something. This wasn't just his fight anymore. It was hers, too. As the footsteps drew closer and the sound of a door creaked open above them, Roman whispered under his breath, half to himself, half to the ghost of a promise long ago. Levi, I'll keep her safe, no matter the cost. And somewhere beyond the flickering screens, the storm began again. Thunder split the night open like a warning shot. The storm that had been crawling over Lagos all evening finally broke loose, washing the streets in silver and shadow. Cafe Meridian, once alive with jazz and quiet laughter, now sat in eerie darkness, its windows trembling against the downpour. Inside, Roman's fingers flew over the control board, Alarms blinked red across every screen. Surveillance feeds showed men in tactical gear breaching the back alley. "They're here," Amira breathed, clutching a hard drive to her chest. Roman didn't look up. "Take the data vault behind the freezer. Lina, help her, now!" Lina grabbed Amira's arm, her pulse hammering as they raced through the narrow hallway. The cafe that once smelled of espresso and cinnamon now reeked of ozone and fear. They reached the storage room where stacks of crates hid a false panel in the wall. Lina heaved it open, revealing a small safe lined with metallic drives, Roman's archive of everything, military files, surveillance logs, evidence of Halvard's crimes. "Put them inside," she said, her hands shaking as thunder rolled overhead. Amira nodded, sliding the drives into the compartment. "If they get these, Roman's whole cover burns." Lina locked the panel, pressing the metal flush against the wall. "Then we don't let them." A gunshot cracked somewhere near the main floor. Glass shattered. The cafe lights flickered violently. Roman's voice roared over the intercom. "Stay low! They've breached the front!" Lina ducked behind a crate as two mercenaries stormed through the doorway, flashlights sweeping the shadows. She could hear their muffled voices, foreign accents, short commands. One of them kicked over a chair, scanning the room. "Upstairs!" the taller one barked. "The target's still moving." Their boots thundered away, but Lina stayed frozen, her breath shallow. Then she turned to Amira. "Go, take the back stairs. I'll distract them." Amira's eyes widened. "You'll get yourself killed." "Better me than the drives," Lina said, forcing a shaky smile. "Go." Amira hesitated, then slipped into the shadows. Lina crept toward the kitchen door, peering through the narrow window. The cafe was chaos, overturned tables, rain leaking through broken windows, smoke curling from a small fire near the counter. And in the center of it all, Roman stood, facing Victor Halvard himself. Halvard was older now, his once sharp features softened by time, but the coldness in his eyes hadn't faded. He held a pistol loosely in one hand, water dripping from his coat. "So this is where the great Roman Darius hides," he said, his voice smooth as oil, "behind coffee cups and charity cases." Roman kept his stance firm, gun lowered but ready. "Still chasing ghosts, Victor? You never learned when to walk away." Halvard smirked. "Walk away? You stole years of my work. You built your little empire off the data I was meant to control. And now you think you can erase it?" Roman's jaw tightened. "You killed Levi Okafor for asking the wrong question. Tonight, that debt gets paid." Halvard's smile vanished. "You should have stayed dead." The flash of lightning outside illuminated their faces, two men who had once shared a mission, now divided by betrayal and blood. Then they moved. Gunfire erupted, deafening against the cafe's walls. Roman dove behind the counter as bullets tore through the espresso machine, shattering glass and metal. Lina dropped low, crawling toward a fallen shelf. She could see Amira's shadow in the stairwell, waving frantically. But before Lina could move, an explosion ripped through the back hallway, the result of a stray round hitting a gas line. Fire burst outward in a hungry wave. "Roman!" she screamed. He turned, shielding his face from the blast. Flames licked across the counter, spreading fast. Smoke thickened, swallowing the air. "Lina, get Amira out," he shouted. But Lina saw something else. A mercenary limping toward Amira's position, rifle raised. Without thinking, she grabbed a metal tray and hurled it. The impact knocked the weapon aside just long enough for her to tackle Amira out of harm's way. Both women hit the floor hard. Lina coughed, choking on smoke. "You okay?" Amira nodded weakly, clutching her side. "You're insane." "Maybe," Lina said, pulling her up. "But we're not dying here." Across the rooms, Roman slammed his fist against a hidden panel near the bar. The lights flickered, once, twice, and then went black. The cafe plunged into darkness. Only the flames provided a dim, flickering glow. Roman's voice came from the shadows. "I just wiped every drive connected to this building. Halvard won't find anything." Halvard's voice answered from somewhere in the smoke. "You erased your legacy, Darius." Roman stepped forward, gun aimed through the haze. "No, Victor, I buried my mistakes." A single shot rang out, then silence. The flames crackled louder now, devouring the ceiling. Roman staggered toward the rear exit where Lina and Amira waited. His sleeve was torn, blood seeping down his arm. "Go," he barked. "The whole place is about to go up." They pushed through the back door into the rain. The sky opened wider, pouring hard enough to drown the fire's roar. From the alley, they watched the cafe, their safe house, their secret world, collapse in a burst of smoke and flame. Lina clutched her chest, tears cutting clean lines through the soot on her cheeks. "It's gone." Roman looked back once, eyes reflecting the fire. "We can rebuild. What matters survived." Amira pressed a trembling hand to his arm. "What about Halvard?" Roman's gaze darkened. "No body," he said. "No sign of escape either." Lina turned toward him. Then he could still be out there. Roman bent down, picking something from the wet pavement, a single blood-stained cufflink engraved with the letter H. He turned it in his hand, rain washing the crimson away. "He is," Roman murmured, "and he won't stop until he finishes what he started." Thunder rumbled overhead again, low and distant, as if the storm itself hadn't finished speaking. The rain had returned, softer now, gentler, like a whisper instead of a storm. Lagos had a way of washing away what burned too brightly, leaving only the faint scent of smoke and memory. It had been 3 weeks since Cafe Meridian went up in flames. 3 weeks since Roman Darius vanished into the inferno, leaving behind nothing but ash, questions, and silence. Lina Okafor adjusted her new apron and wiped the counter of Cafe Oriana, a quiet spot tucked between 2 bookstores on a narrow street. The hum of the espresso machine, the low chatter of customers, the jazz drifting from the speakers. It should have felt ordinary, safe, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. She had changed. The shy waitress who once flinched under a manager's voice now stood taller. Her eyes no longer darted to the floor. She carried herself with quiet confidence, a strength tempered by loss and forged in fire. "Lina, table 3 needs more sugar," her co-worker called. "Got it," she replied with a small smile, setting down a tray. As she turned towards the window, her smile faded. Across the street, through the steady drizzle, stood a man beneath a black umbrella. He wasn't moving, just standing there, head slightly tilted, face shadowed by the rain. Watching. Her heart stuttered, the shape of the shoulders, the stillness, the calm presence that felt more like protection than threat. She blinked, and he was gone. Her hands trembled slightly as she carried the tray to the table. "You're imagining things," she told herself. "He's gone. He's gone." But deep down, she wasn't sure. That night, as she locked up and stepped out into the rain, she noticed something by the door. A black umbrella neatly propped against the wall. Attached to it was a sealed brown envelope, her name written in clean block letters. Her breath caught. She looked around, but the street was empty, slick with reflections of neon and headlights. With shaking hands, she opened the envelope. Inside was a stack of documents, ownership papers.
"You think you can steal from me and get away with it?"
Deed, signed and stamped, transferred fully to Lina Okafor. And beneath
"You think
them,
you can steal from me and get away with it?"
Note. "Your father protected lives. Now protect his legacy.
You think you can steal from me and get away with
As
it?
her tears fell. She pressed the note to her chest, the rain mingling with her grief.
You think you can steal from me and get away with
the man who
it?
lived in the shadows, who faked his death twice, who had guarded her without asking for anything, had
You
left
think
her
you can
something
steal from
more
me and
than
get
a
away with
building.
it?
He'd left her purpose. The next morning, she went to the ruins. The site
You
of
think you
Cafe
can steal from me
Meridian
and get
was
away
now
with
fenced
it?
off. The once beautiful cafe reduced to blackened stone and twisted beams. Workers
think
were
you can
clearing
steal
debris,
from me and get away
but
with
the air
it?
still carried the scent of burnt wood and secrets. Lina stepped through the gap in
You
the
think
fence,
you can steal from me and get
careful
away
not
with
to
it?
draw attention. In the center of the charred remains stood a metal plaque, half
You
melted
think you
but
can
still
steal from me
legible.
and get away with it?
To those who choose integrity when no one's watching. She smiled faintly.
You think you can steal
You
from me
always
and get
did
away
love
with it?
dramatic messages, Roman, she whispered. Then she heard it, faintly behind her.
You think you can
A
steal
man's
from me and
voice,
get away
deep
with
and
it?
calm, carried by the wind. Keep walking with your head high. She froze.
You think you can steal
Turned.
from me and get away with it?
No one was there. Only the rain falling softly over the ruins. For a
You
moment,
think you can steal
she
from
thought
me and
she
get
saw
away
a
with it?
reflection in a shard of glass. A figure in a dark coat holding an umbrella just beyond the fence.
You think you can
But
steal
when she
from me and get
blinked,
away with
It
it?
vanished. Over the next few weeks, rumors began to spread through the city.
You think you can
Stories
steal from
whispered
me
in
and get away
markets
with it?
and police stations of a mysterious figure known only as the Ghost.
You think you
A
can
man
steal
who
from
left
me and get away
envelopes
with
of
it?
evidence on corrupt officials' desks, who helped trafficked girls escape the city's underbelly,
You think you can
who
steal
never
from
showed
me
his
and get away
face,
with it?
but whose presence lingered like thunder before rain. Lina never confirmed those stories.
You think you can
She
steal
didn't
from
need
me and get
to.
away with it?
Every time it rained, she would find another sign, a black umbrella left by the door.
You think you
or a
can steal
message
from me and
scrawled
get
on a
away with
napkin
it?
in unfamiliar handwriting. You're doing well, Lina. He'd be proud.
You think you can steal
And
from me and
slowly,
get away with
The
it?
pieces began to heal. Months later, she stood outside a new cafe. Her
You think
cafe.
you can steal from me and get away with
Sign
it?
above the door gleamed in fresh gold letters. Meridian Reborn. The grand opening was small.
You think you
but
can
warm.
steal from me and get away
Music
with
played
it?
softly. Laughter filled the air. And Lina stood behind the counter, serving the first cup
You
herself.
think you can steal from me and
The
get
rain
away
had
with
begun
it?
again, a soft drizzle tapping against the windows. Outside, across the street, a
You
lone
think you can
umbrella
steal
stood
from
by
me
a
and get away with
lamppost.
it?
She didn't go to the window this time. She didn't need to. She simply smiled.
You think you can
placed a
steal from me
steaming
and
cup
get
of
away with
coffee
it?
on the counter and whispered under her breath, "Thank you." As the rain fell
You
harder,
think you can steal from
washing
me and
the
get
city
away with
clean,
it?
She felt a quiet warmth in her chest. She never saw him again. But every time
You
it
think
rained,
you can steal
she
from
felt
me and get
safe,
away with it?
as if her secret protector was still watching. And somewhere, far
You
beyond
think
the
you can steal
downpour,
from me and get away with
under
it?
a black umbrella, Roman Darius smiled, a ghost fulfilled, a promise kept.